how this is going to work is we're going to have a discussion with our two interpreters and our two leaders of the discussion. So I'm going to show you what to do if you want to make a comment. Your video is hidden. You will pop up, mention that you have a question or comment, state that question or comment. If we have 2 or 3 individuals pop up at the same time, then that's all right. We will just take our turns, and then we'll call out the next individual to then comment. Oh, yay, good. I'm so glad you understand. Perfect.
Yeah, my sign name's down here by my chin, not on my
Oh,
forehead.
I'm sorry. Thank you for that correction. You know, I need more practice and training with student life. Yep, I got it now. Okay, so this is a CEASD sponsored session. We care about all of you and all of your students. We want to see those deaf students flourish and thrive. That is our goal, and how we do that is by sharing resources amongst each other. So we do have leaders of a discussion, but this is a information sharing session, and it's for all CSD affiliated schools to really help their schools and their children thrive. And that's what CEASD stands for. Again, we want to thank Texas School for the Deaf for providing 2 interpreters for this session. We appreciate that. We have interpreter Lee Godbold. We also have Katie Northup. We also want to thank American School for the Deaf for contributing the Zoom platform for today's meeting, providing us 2 rooms. If you can imagine 100 people in each room simultaneously, and that's how these sessions are going.
Very cool.
So providing this platform has helped us have an efficient meeting experience. We also want to thank Gallaudet and MSSD for providing Deb Keaghlan and TSD, Texas School for the Deaf, for Wamanda McDevitt to lead our discussion today. Before we do all of this, I'm going to hold us off a little bit longer. I do want to introduce Deb Keaghlan. She graduated from the Lexington School for the Deaf, went to Gallaudet University to get her bachelor's degree in communication arts. She has a master's in deaf education. She has worked in student life for 26 years, but she is only 29 years old. Can you imagine? Who knows how that has happened? But she's worked at ISD and she is currently at MSSD. She has helped found the National Student Life for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Schools. Has 4 kids, last baby of the families from China. So if you have any ideas or need ideas about that, she is here to share with you.
That's my former supervisor, for all of you who are wondering. I miss you, David.
Miss you as well, Deb. We also have Wamanda McDevitt. She graduated from American School for the Deaf. She has a bachelor's degree in sociology. From Gallaudet University, a master's degree in social work. She has worked in student life for 20 years and has ample experience working at the West Pennsylvania School for the Deaf, Texas School for the Deaf. She has 2 boys, and she also helped in establishing the National Student Life Deaf Hard of Hearing organization. So thank you both for leading this discussion today. We will keep it simple. You can raise your hand. You can pop up your video to add any comments or questions. But
Great.
For now, I will turn the floor over to you, Deb and Wamanda. Hopefully, everyone, the more ideas and conversations we have today, the
That's
better
right.
off we'll be for our schools and kids.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, David. Hi, everybody. We're so thrilled to have this opportunity. Wamanda and I are now coordinators and assistant coordinators of this organization, the National Student Life for Deaf, Hard of Hearing Children. We do have a website that you can check out after the conclusion of today's session. So we will share some questions with all of you, and then feel free to get feedback and comments. This time, of course, is unprecedented. We're completely in uncharted territory. And so at this point, we do have more questions than answers, but we have seen some positives. Staff are really growing in the area of technology and other skills. So we're here to work together. So the first question for the group that we'd like to ask everyone, we know that some schools, student life has been sent home with pay, others have gone home without pay, or some are home with continued work. And so we're very curious to know where you stand at your schools. And if you want to comment, yep, you can just hit start video. Hi.
Hi, I'm from Louisiana School for the Deaf. Our staff and student life went home with pay, and they are still working from home.
Great. So I'm wondering, what type of work are the student life staff doing at home?
So right now we are reviewing our handbook. We also have some meetings with students, some different workshops, activities that would happen typically after school. Right now, there's not a lot of our students that have access to internet. Some do not have any computers at home. So we've started visiting some student homes. Those are some of the examples we've done.
Good. Okay, you can turn off your video. Mary?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm from the Kansas School for the Deaf. All of our dorm staff went home with full pay, with the expectation that they would continue to check in with students, not necessarily dorm students only, but just students of the school itself. They're doing some virtual games through Zoom, helping with homework, that stuff.
Great, thank you. Rick?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, our staff all went home with pay. They are doing some telework every day, supporting students at home, supporting staff, hopefully supporting students socially, emotionally, mental health, wellness. We've had some parent meetings with all of our students throughout the week, maintaining contact with parents, also providing some training, online trainings of different topics, safety at school and so forth. We've been reviewing our program book. We've definitely tried to keep busy, so we've been doing well with that so far.
Very good. Ethan?
Yeah, hello. I'm with Fremont, California School for the Deaf Fremont. For the past 3 weeks, all of our staff has stayed home without any work necessarily to do, so to speak. But our supervisors, they've been also staying at home, quarantined. And then when we found that this was going to be a prolonged time frame, we've called for some of the parents of our students to come pick up items that were left in the dorm. So we've had some of our supervisors of the dorm come and make sure that things can get packed up safely and so forth. I know that the state has now been using our cottages for an off-site infirmaries for any patients that may have contracted COVID-19. So I think right now California's been doing a really good job at flattening that curve and not letting it rise. But we have decided to close school for the summer. Each of our house parents have a list of students, assigned students that they will maintain contact with and check in with. If they're not able to, then they would work with principals and teachers in order to work that out. All of our meetings are occurring through the Zoom platform. So we've been doing that periodically during this time.
Great, thank you. Whew, what would we do without Zoom? Who knew we couldn't do our jobs without that? Let's see, next, Marcos, let me turn it over to you.
Hi, yeah, I'm with Ohio School for the Deaf, and really we've all been sent home, no question about that. But then we've realized that several students do not have video phones, and we were unaware of that. And so we've been working to help get them video phones installed in their homes, and that's been the goal. To really empower those students to have that happen, and hopefully changing some things up, planning for next year when students come back. So hopefully we've been getting some good training in so that we know what to do when we're working from home. Again, as everyone else has mentioned, we've used Zoom to meet with our middle school, high school students. We've tried our best to get students to meet on the online platform, but many don't have access to that. We are trying to get increased communication. So all of our staff were sent home with pay through the summer, which is incredibly nice to experience that. So it's been a relief.
That's an important point that you mentioned the overnight staff as well. Thank you. Dawn.
Yes, hi, I'm from Ohio School for the Deaf. Yes, all of my day staff and evening staff have been working together on a daily basis, doing some schedules for check-in. Our other staff departments, working with them. And the reason we're having the evening and overnight staff work together is because obviously there's not a lot of work for overnight staff to do from home. And reviewing some of our old manuals, old handbooks. So we're revising all of that. We've actually decided to kind of toss the entire thing out the window for now and just kind of start from scratch on all of that. It's been really nice working together. And, you know, when everything started, when we closed the school, we did continue with just trying to work remotely. You know, we're an Apple campus, so we've been giving iPads to students and trying to maintain access for everyone to be able to have a virtual experience. So updating rules on our contact with parents, contact with students, and we do have an activity specialist that has set up a once a week get together virtually just to banter back and forth and have that social time. And there's been some information sharing in terms of the length of learning online, so learning on demand for any online or virtual experiences. So a lot of things are happening that have been really great. Plus, we are going to have virtual camp.
Wow.
That was going to be planned. It's going to be, again, it was planned for in-person physical on-campus camp, but now it has become virtual. So periodically we will have those online meetings, and our dorm staff, evening and overnight, will participate in that, planning for that summertime for the students.
Wow, great. I know many schools are using this opportunity to revamp and revise a lot of policies because they simply don't have the time during the regular school year. So yeah, I know many schools are
Exactly.
taking that opportunity. Thank you, Dawn. Next, let me turn over to Roddy.
Okay, hi, I'm from New Mexico, School for the Deaf, and I've seen some comments that have already happened of what we're doing. So during spring break was when the kids were sent home. It turned out we planned for just 2 weeks, and then it ended up being extended. And so we've had some of our staff and students work together to come and pack up all of their dorm items that they left after spring break. We've also been doing those online meetings, helping out with homework, helping with projects, checking in with students. And then we've used administrative leave during this time for our staff. A lot of our student life staff have been supporting teachers and working with students. So if there is a student whose needs do not necessarily fit or are compatible with a Zoom meeting with multiple students involved, then our dorm staff have been helping provide more one-on-one or one-on-two support for teaching and online learning. So we've been helping during the day. We've been doing some tutoring, different projects. We've had social hour meetings online in separate groups according to age and grade, elementary, middle school, high school. So I think, you know, I can't wait to get back into the in-person and get that physical closeness again, but that's what we've been doing at New Mexico.
Thank you. I would like to take time to check in with the interpreters. Is everyone okay? Keeping up with everybody? All good. Okay, great. Let me turn it over to Ed.
I'm Ed from California School for the Deaf, Riverside. A lot of similarities to what Fremont has been doing. The only thing that may be different is we've had a great opportunity that occurred. So back in the fall, the state had decided to use a system for using more online resources for education. So we've used office.com, and that was sort of a struggle learning that new platform, new technology. So we started that in the fall, and then because of the pandemic, having closed our school, we've increased the use of our online platform, and a lot of our teachers and staff have become more comfortable in using it. It does have apps. We've realized that there are many pros to having this online platform and having already started it before everything happened with the pandemic. So we've just maintained contact. Our student life staff have. It seems like there have been an increase in incidences already in terms of bullying, just some emotional conflicts, and so we've needed to have some more support. So we've definitely grown in our communication and checking in with those students and having that separate time to have those virtual conversations and meetings with our students.
Great, thanks, Ed. Let me turn it over to Becky, or then Tim, or actually, sorry, Mary, then Tim, then Becky.
So the interpreter is struggling to see the signs because
time out your background, Mary. You're so backlit. Could you possibly change the vantage point in which you're at? Sorry about that. That's better.
Yes, that is better. Okay, it's a little bit better.
Maybe
Can you
more?
go even more?
Interpreters, you all right? Okay, go ahead, Mary.
Okay, so I think very similar to what other people have already mentioned, you know, we've started kind of sending home things for kids to do at home. And then we looked at the National Student Life for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Children website to get some ideas and resources. We've used Google Form for any questions and games that we've played with the students. We watched an online presentation from that website to help support us. And then doing online training, there's been some resources provided for the entire state that we're in, and we've had some discussions getting together on Zoom. Very, very blessed to have Zoom as an available platform. We've contacted students just to see if they've needed any supports or assistance. So really, I think West Pennsylvania, we've set up online classes, you know, through virtual learning, and now that they've been at home, it's similar, but it's just less physical contact, physical closeness. So we've just checked in with our students, see what's going on with them. So we do have the weekly follow-ups for just personal care and support. It's just been a lot of great teamwork and making sure that we've gotten communication out there and that we've checked in. I feel like we're still working even though we're here in our own homes.
Great, thank you. The last two, and then I want to turn it over to Wamanda for our second question. Okay, Becky and Tim.
Okay, so hi, I'm from Virginia School for the Deaf and Blind. Yes, our staff and students were sent home. There's been no work thus far. However, we have recently realized that there is some needs, and what we've done is we've had to send out letters of kind of work agreements for our staff to sign. And then we've just had to explain what our staff can do from home. Now, half of our staff do not have access to the internet. And so we've had to develop a sort of Facebook group that's on private settings. I think 30 of our department, 30 people in our department have Facebook and can access that. And so we've been sending out resources on, you know, ASL sign class and deaf blind and doing some training at home. But we haven't had a lot of contact with the students because the teachers have been doing that. And so that is one of the drawbacks right now to us not doing that. And we have some that we have not been allowed to use Zoom as a platform.
Oh, wow.
And so what we had to do was use Google Meet. and that's sort of scheduling classes in order to have those meetings virtually on the Google platform.
Wow.
They were sent home with pay through the summer until we come back, and who knows when we come back and what's going to happen then.
Thank you. Tim?
Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my signs clearly.
No, I can see you clear.
Okay, I'm Tim Elstead, and I have been retired. However, I have returned. I left last fall. I didn't have a lot of time as a retired employee until I was asked to come back. So I did, and then it happened that the pandemic started and spread, and so I've been supporting the Student Life team. Looking at all the comments that have been said today, really we're in a similar situation. We have 6 specific core groups that are working right now, because not all are experts in the different duties that we have assigned. We have the POC, the person of contact, that is contacting parents for any needs or concerns that may arise. We want to limit how many people are contacting parents and reaching out to them, but we've used the point of contacts for that situation. Another group that's really trying to revise and encourage our staff through Facebook and providing resources and online and virtual. It's been an awkward learning curve for us, but now we're getting more organized, gathering more ideas, communicating more, and helping out with campus work. Any of the work that we were behind on campus in terms of maybe custodial work, any facility work. So we're trying to give our staff 20 hours a week and then 20 hours of administrative leave. We felt like that was a good fit. You know, student life without any kids on campus is very difficult to do our jobs. And so we've been supporting and coordinating, cooperating with other departments on campus to help out with any facility needs that may be there. Work from home, you know, we're leaving all of that to the core team of point of contacts, those who have video phones, with those who are more familiar with Zoom. One thing that I know is going to be another question later on, but I was just thinking about professional development, and I think
we have
now
a question
this is
about
a great time to discuss that. So, all right, I'll look forward to that.
Great. Thank you, Tim. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Amanda now for the second question.
Okay, well, hello, everyone. I know there were a lot of answers, but if we wanted to elaborate a little bit more, the second question is talking about communicating with students and how you've been contacting them, how you've been communicating with parents. What have you been doing with your students on Zoom? Do you have any activities, online activities or games that you've been using through Zoom? Okay, so I guess I'll go ahead and comment on what Texas School for the Deaf has been doing.
Go ahead and share.
So we have sort of ordered our staff to keep working even though they're at home. Some of our students and staff, you know, they don't have access to technology, or students don't have access to communication based on just home life. And so we have had everyday Zoom meetings set up. And our day residential educators, our day staff, have participated with some of the different classes in Zoom meetings. I mean, we have over 220 dorm students ranging from elementary all the way to high school. And on Zoom, we do different activities such as trivia questions, where our dorm staff will lead that game. We play games like Hangman. With our younger group, we do games. And at the very end of this session, we'll play a game with you, and I'll show you what that looks like. But just trying to keep that communication exposure, language exposure, social exposure. So we do have groups every day that the students can choose to join in or not. We have staff that'll explain different things, storytelling, ASL story time. We've recently had an ASL film that came out on YouTube. So we've pulled from YouTube and different videos that we can use there to show our students. It's just nice to have that conversation with our kids and stay in contact. Not all of our students show up, but majority of them do.
And I do want to add to that. I know at MSSD had previously tried to do some Zoom meetings, but the students felt that they were a little bit overwhelmed. So we actually moved to more of like a Texas type model where we're doing a lot of social media posting via Facebook or Instagram. We had our own student life account, and there were times in which students struggled and would participate via that or other means. And then we started to add challenges for the students to do something. They could get a prize from Amazon that could be mailed to them. And so if they win a challenge, then we send them something from Amazon. So that was a new thing that we added as well.
Anything else?
I'll add, I do know that for LSD, that we had Mr. and Miss LSD pageant. The first year for us to have it virtual was a bit of a struggle to try to do it via Zoom, but we've had several different meetings with students, at least in regards to the pageant. Also, our senior apartment manager has actually been doing cooking videos and posting those on Facebook for the students.
Oh, interesting. Just to kind of tack on to that, some of our staff have worked with students in editing videos related to coronavirus information or hygiene, washing hands during this time. So we've edited those videos with students and posted them.
Someone had actually asked in the chat window, how many hours per week are we expecting our staff to work? It looks like for most of you, 20 hours per week, meaning 4 to 5 hours a day. And that actually leads me, we will be sending out to all the directors of student life a Google form with some specific questions, and that will allow us to have a comparison across the board after this.
Okay. So I'll turn it over to you, Deb, for the third question.
All right, so the third question, we're curious if your student organizations are continuing to operate. I know at MSSD, we have junior NAD. We do expect students to provide some activities through that, whether it be via Instagram or otherwise. We're empowering our students to be leaders. It's not a perfect system. There are some struggles. Some are just really engaging with it. And so we'd encourage everyone to stay the course, to keep students busy and keep the organizations operating. So I'd be curious to know whether or not you're continuing to do the same.
Hello, I'm Stephanie from the Rocky Mountain Deaf School. Just letting you know, we don't really have a residential program, but we are big on student clubs, student after-school activities. So we do have some trainings that are still running, academic bowl, different clubs. Now, in terms of our teachers and family and academics, there's just so much screen time going on right now. And so we're trying to be sensitive to that and how we're balancing things out. So we've reduced our after-school activities in some of our clubs so that the students can focus more on academics and instruction for their screen time. So I'm just curious as to after-school programs, what y'all are doing and what that looks like, because we have backed off on the amount of activities we've done. Last week, we sort of did a virtual Spirit Week, and we hosted Zoom meetings throughout that week, 30 minutes of activities. And it seemed like the families and students really liked that. So it's really nice to see that families are willing to do that. I'm just worried about the screen time. How do y'all feel about that? How are y'all handling that?
That is a good question. I'm a little bit different. I am in high school, and I know like last night there were 8 and 9 o'clock at night, because high school kids tend to stay up late. So we are trying to meet them. We try to leave the daytime alone, and then the evening, that's when we tend to host things, try to spread out some of that screen time. But yes, I know families and students are really at their max with screen time. I think you raise an excellent
Yeah,
point with that.
that was
Ethan?
my concern. So Fremont, we haven't done a lot of keeping up with student organizations maintaining their operation. There's just been a lot of confusion and learning curves going on how to learn on technology. So everyone's main focus has been on instruction and school in terms of online platforms, Office 365, and trying to learn about all of that. That's where our effort has been focused. So again, we've done Academic Bowl, Battle of the Books, which is more on the academic side of things. But, we've really been focusing on the instructional side of things and letting them operate. So we at Student Life with student organizations haven't done much. If this becomes even a longer time frame for us, we may start organizing and working with the school on how we can balance this out. We do have day students and residential students. Our residential student number is small at this time. So I would say my answer right now with student organizations and clubs still operating, not at this time for us.
Thank you, Ethan. I do see some questions. Don't worry, we will answer your questions. I see those popping up in the chat window. Nicholas, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, from Utah, School for the Deaf. In terms of student organizations, they are still operating. We only have 2 at this time, Junior and AD, which is still up and running. And then some students have been involved in Connect 4, playing that tournament. We've had some students very heavily involved in that. Those are the 2 organizations that are still kind of up and running that we have.
All right. I apologize. Sorry. I had a text I had to respond to. Mel.
Yeah, so I'm Florida School for the Deaf and Blind, and in terms of student life, I'm loving all of these ideas that have been throwing out. At this point in time, Florida School for the Deaf has not allowed residential staff to make contact with families. Again, they're focusing on the academics and the different comments that have come up earlier. We have created a weekly newsletter that we've sent out to families, giving them ideas of different activities they could do. So we've tried to, do independent living skill activity list and just encourage families to really get involved with their kids and not just sit there on screens and playing video games all the time. So really wanting to focus on the students getting active and out and about. We do have students that have been struggling academically in how to work online. And so we've gotten some counselors involved, support staff involved, mental health staff have been involved to address any issues that may be occurring, such as bullying. All of that has been on the side. So if there's any other supports that are needed, then they're able to contact us through Zoom. And we've really been just supporting the academic program right now. But it's been great to see these ideas of things that they could do in the evenings, but hopefully we'll get to that point a little bit later on.
And I think that newsletter is a really good way to provide activities and ideas without screen time. So I really do like that idea. Thank you for that, Mel.
Yeah, no problem. One big complaint that we have received from parents is that they're just overwhelmed with the screen time, the contacts, the emails, the calls. And so a lot of our families have multiple kids at home. And so they're trying to balance out the time for each kid and really how to work on that. So just working through technology and having all those calls coming in is overwhelming for the parents and the families. So we're trying to really minimize that as much as we can.
Great. Thank you, Mel.
Sure,
Ethan?
no problem. Yeah, just one more comment. In terms of our athletic director, Warren, he set up an e-sports tournament.
I saw that.
And so different deaf schools can kind of come and challenge each other from wrestling. I think now it's soccer. There's a lot of other options that are involved, but trying to set up an esports instead of having an in-person type of tournament, doing that online. So that's been pretty cool. You know, I want to add to Ethan's comment in terms of Fremont setting that up. Texas has become a part of that. We also have something for our local students that are online. And I think there are 4 that have joined. I think Rochester kind of hosted one. We partook in that. And Junior NAD is still up and running. They're going to be having a virtual meeting soon. We've done a lot with our deaf youth. Student development staff coordinators that we have here have been posting different things on Instagram, such as exercise tips, arts and crafts ideas, various things, ASL, storytelling, our poem contest, and different posts that we've been uploading.
Okay, I'll close this question, but I see there's quite a few questions popping up in the chat window. Okay, I see it, Tennessee. I will share notes later explaining about hours and how that's situated. Roddy, okay, similar. Oh, okay. Some people are expressing curiosity about athletics in the fall.
Question for later.
Yes, that'll be later on. Okay. Well, let's see. Our next question, question number 4. I'll turn that to you, Wanda.
All right. So now we're just wondering, in terms of student belongings that were left in the dorm, did you pack them up and ship them to students? Did you have parents come to campus? Was that even allowed? How did you organize and work out students getting their belongings back?
Yes, hi. As mentioned earlier, I am from Ohio, and I'm actually in place of my boss. They were unable to join, so they actually asked me to take over. And so my understanding is that we've surveyed to see who would be willing to come to each dorm. We completed that 2 weeks ago. And then my supervisor will be reaching out to all the parents to coordinate some kind of time staggering. So for example, we'll ask parents to say come at 8 o'clock, and then the next one would be requested to come at 8:30. And so we'd have a staggered show up to do that. This past Monday and Tuesday, we completed all of the packing, and then we will do the same kind of coordination for next week for the next batch. And so we have a list and coordinating that. My supervisor will be emailing everyone, gathering all those responses, and then creating that list to know who is coming when. And so that way students are able to come so they know who's going to be going where, setting everything outside, and then closing the door for them to pick up and go. It's a contactless situation. There's no time to chit chat or engage with one another. And so then as the next family comes, we have the same kind of procedure. We set their items outside, they pick it up, they leave. And so we'll be setting that up again for next week, Thursday, Friday, dependent upon the weather, of course. But that's what we've been doing.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Okay, next, let's go ahead and go to Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm from ISD. I'm the Student Life Director here. We did notify parents that they would be able to come pick up their items. However, we are packing them ourselves. So we did all the preparation materials, labeling them, and then we contacted them, letting them know there'd be a limited set number of days. And so in our view, they would let us know what kind of essentials were really necessary for them, whether it be clothes, or I know shoes was a hot ticket item. And so I can understand that consideration. So we set up a schedule, and again, similar to Ohio, doing a staggered arrival. And so we'd have the boxes set up in one area. We had carts available to them with gloves, hand sanitizer, and all of that kind of PPE for themselves to come grab, pick up for themselves. And again, no social interaction. We try to keep as contactless as possible. We've got a handful more sessions available in the next few days, but not much is remaining. And so we weren't making an effort to reach out if they weren't contacting us. And so as it gets closer to the start of the school year, they are still required to bring their textbooks and iPads back to the campus anyways. And so at that time, we can do an exchange of equipment for their items in the dorm. But we're a small dormitory. We only have about, 70, 80 students, not compared to, 400 student population. So that's how we've been handling it so far.
Well, thank you, Matt, for sharing that. Okay, next, Mel.
Okay, so at FSDB, it has been those parents that reached out to us. There have been a handful that are wanting to pick up their child's items. We do allow our dorm supervisors to be very involved with the contact of the families. So we currently have 6 in my DEF program, DEF supervisors. So they've been reaching out to parents, making plans for them to come to pick up their children's items. And we keep the 6-foot social distance practices and what have you. But yes, they're able to come in, we show them their room, they're able to pack up their items. I know last week, all of our staff actually came back to campus in the different dorms. We were rotating, 2 on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, so forth. So all the staff came into campus to do packing of the remaining items of students' personal belongings, items that maybe couldn't fit in a box or what have you. And so we are keeping some of those larger items in storage until school is back open on campus. But for the most part, we've packed everything. We had one student with 11 boxes. And so we sent those via FedEx Ground. And then we also have a warehouse available to us and let them know where those items were shipped to so they could go and pick it up. So that way the parents know that boxes are on the way, how many, whether it be 11 boxes arriving, what day of the week, time, etc. So that way the families know when they'll be receiving. Because some families do live in apartments or other areas to where shipping items that may not be safe to be shipped to their area, so they can choose to pick it up from a warehouse. So we've been sending those out. We have another 2 remaining to do shipments, but that's how FSDB has been proceeding with that.
Okay, so Mel, I'm wondering how many residential students do you have at FSDB?
Oh, every year you ask me that
I
question.
always forget. I forget.
I want to say we have 533 total.
Dorm students.
Oh, dorm, let's see, our total student population is 533. I couldn't tell you for the dorm
Okay.
program, but I know within my department, I'd say roughly 230. That's elementary
Okay.
up through high school.
Yeah, so we're pretty comparable then at Texas.
Okay.
Marcos?
Hi, we find ourselves in kind of a strange situation. Our cottages have been undergoing renovations. And so that was already planned by spring break anyways. So we had to hold off on that for students to come by, and then all of this has happened. And so we decided to go ahead and start sending everything. There were some families, with shipping costs and whatnot. And so we decided to just go ahead and arrange for them to either pick up or be shipped. Some have chosen to wait until school reopens, and that is their choice. And of course, other concerns economically, what have you, we have had some pick up, and then of course, with the renovations, they want us to take everything out. So we've had to have all the staff go in, pack things up, get them out of the way so the renovations could get going. Of course, the renovations are a moving target across campus, so we're having to go in and do that. In terms of timeline, we understand that that's how work goes. So the supervisors are in charge of reaching out to the families, whether it be to have them come in person or make other arrangements. So it's labeling those, knowing whose is what, and then going from there. We're pretty much done with that aspect of it. Whatever is remaining is going to storage for next year, 2 years, I don't know, but I'd like to know what the game plan is if fall is closed. I'd be so curious to know. I don't know if you're going to answer that.
That's coming up. Yep, that's
Okay.
coming up. That's coming up. Okay, next, let's go to Rick.
Hi, everybody. I'm not sure, but I think that our school in the residential program is closed countrywide. And so at one point that was supposed to be for a month, and then the week prior to spring break, it was kind of odd because our kids had already been packing items up as if they were ready for summertime anyways. And so everyone left for spring break. And then we found out that we'd actually be closed, not just until the 24th. And so we had 3 days at a time in which people could come to the cottages, do packing and pickup. And so parents could determine what it was they wanted, whether it be everything or just some of the items. And so we told them not to pack up the blankets or bedding or what have you. That could just be stored until the fall. But they would have to pack up for our seniors, of course, because they will not be returning in the fall. And so they've had to pack up everything, and it was all put in one room in another building. And then we had our drivers come pick everything up, and they were able to transport that to the post office. However, everything is not done being packed up. We're still waiting to hear back from some students, some parents, oh, I want this or I only want that. And so it's been a lot of coordination with like 50 different staff. And so we're having to go do some pickup of items and some finger pointing of it's you or it's me who's supposed to be taking care of what. And so I haven't had a chance to visit campus again since that time or see my office. And so we're just kind of doing a wait and see. So as I mentioned, we are shipping hotspots also for those students who may not have access to the internet. So we've been shipping out hotspots for them, as well as keyboards for them to use for their iPads. So we're still doing a little bit at a time, but for the most part, we're packing up things.
All right. Well, thanks, Rick. Let's go ahead and move to Nicholas.
Okay. I've been working with our students to become independent. So we've been contacting the students directly about coming to the cottage to come clean up, pack up their items. And we've been doing that on an individual basis where they're able to rotate through. So when March 27th, the announcement was made that we were closed until the fall, we started at that point. We had students coming on an individual basis to pack up. Then they could meet and chat briefly, talk about what their plan is, how they felt about the virus, and what their plans were for summer, kind of discussing a little bit about the fall, touching base with everyone, also talking with parents, asking them, checking in about how they were doing at home. Are they doing all right? What's going on? And then sending them on their way. And that's how we've been handling it so far.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Nicholas. Moving on to Tom.
Hi, Wamanda. I'm Tom. I'm joining from Western Pennsylvania School for the Deaf. I would say we're pretty similar to what everyone else has commented. The only unique item for us is that we have 60 school students, and about half live in Eastern Pennsylvania, and the other half of our students live in Western Pennsylvania. So we are having staff come and doing the packing. We ordered empty boxes online from Office Depot and had those delivered, roughly 200 some odd boxes. And so we've been doing the packing ourselves, the labeling of everything. We've been in touch with the parents and giving them 3 options, really 4 options, I should say. One being leave everything till the fall. The second being saying that they could pay us COD for that. The third being that they could come to campus and do a pickup or go to an office location about 4 hours east of here, in which we could deliver to that office and they could pick up there at that point. That way they wouldn't have to come all the way to the school. They could either go to the eastern or western location, because some of them live even 5-6 hours away from here. So that office location is a little bit closer. So I'd say about half have chosen to go to the eastern office location to do a pickup. Probably about a quarter have decided to leave the items here, and there have been a handful that have requested for it to be shipped. So if that's the case, then we pack it up, we put it in the gym, and the parents are able to do a pickup from the gym. And then at the school, we make signs that show where they drive up to, 1 vehicle at a time, for you to exit your vehicle, pick up items, and then the next one can pull up and keep going from there, and maintaining those social distance protocols. So that's really what we've been doing as of 2 weeks ago. We've got our dorms nice and clean, and then next week staff are going to be able to come in, do some more cleaning of the dorm, get it ready for the fall.
Wow. Well, that's good. Thanks, Tom. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Bethany?
Yeah, hi. So I'm joining from Tennessee School for the Deaf. We have 12 cottages, and I have, pretty much the same as what everyone else has been doing. We've contacted teachers plus partnering with the school because they've had to send out devices as well as items from the lockers as well. Some students have items that they've left in the locker that they may need. So we've been doing clean outs of lockers as well to ship all of that home. We've been using FedEx, which is pricey, but we're getting everything out. And then those who are local, we've set up a place at the security guard shack house. So people have a rotating schedule in which the families can come at a certain window of time to pick up. And, we don't want to end up with a trail of cars blocking traffic. So for the locals, it's been pretty easy. We've been doing shipping out. We've also are making plans to collect the devices. We are a little bit concerned about that because we use those devices for communication with the students, whether that be Zoom or otherwise. And without them having access to those devices, I am concerned about that for their emotional well-being, any supports they may need, communication support. And we're hoping that we can continue with that, get those devices back out to them to maintain that communication ongoing.
Great, thanks, Bethany. Okay, Ed?
Yeah, really, it's been about a 2-week process. That first week, we focus on residential, those who are living within a 30-mile radius. And the second group that maybe live in the dorm but were day students. And so we had 3 groups of staff. So we had the evening overnight staff. So we had them clustered. One group's responsible for packing, another group responsible for making the contacts, and then the other one making the plans for driving. Because typically on Fridays and Sundays, that's the home going. And so that helps lessen the confusion. They know where the bus stop is and they can do a pickup at those areas. And everything is gone from our dorms. We were able to figure that out within a 2-week time span, and we really appreciate everyone's focus on that. I know it's boring working from home.
Yes, yes. So we had the similar situation here. We had some staff that were very eager to volunteer, and we sent 2 at the same time, but we asked first and said, are you okay with going 2 at a time? And they said, maybe not, but many staff were willing to volunteer for that job. And then we had parents, we have some students that fly home for homegoing, and so we asked to make sure that parents were willing to meet up with us. So similar situation to you.
And I will say there were some staff that were uncomfortable leaving their home at all. And so they were assigned to making parent contacts. And so that helped provide a solution.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, Ethan, you wanted to say something?
I did it right with turning on my video, correct?
Yes, you did. Yeah, okay, this is the last comment, and then we'll move on.
Just one thing to add. I know that today and tomorrow, with our supervisors and what have you, they'll be driving to the seniors' homes to be setting up a banner in their yard with a sign for their name. And so they'll actually be setting that up in their yard to call the students and families to come out, take a picture or video of them. Because there isn't a formal graduation. So we'll be doing that today and tomorrow. We have 24 different vehicles going out across Northern California. So that'll be happening these next 2 days.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you, Ethan, for sharing that. Okay, all right, turning it back over to Deb.
All right, on to our next question. Okay, NSLDHH recognizes that we need more training, webinars, available on our website, because a lot of these don't necessarily apply to dorm or residential programming. We have different topics that would meet our needs. And so that's something that we'd like to commit to producing this summer if possible. We'd like to be developing webinars and training, so we'd be really curious to know, I know some has been mentioned, if they're the same thing, we do want to be cognizant of time, but if there's something new that hasn't already been mentioned, we know we've talked about safety in schools, some doing some statewide training. Are there other types of training that you can recommend for us or that you've been doing?
Okay, Wamanda, we'll start with you. Sorry, Lee. Luckily, we've had some trainings that were provided from a conference last summer. And so we've listed those on the to-do list for our staff. And we've been rotating different departments taking those trainings, such as trauma workshop, and then trauma 2 and trauma 3. And then we have some other mental health trainings related to anxiety, depression, empathy, how to create rapport and connect with the students we work with. Different activities. We have quizzes on Google Form related to those trainings, so it continues the dialogue. And we've done that for about a week now. We're going to be continuing doing those trainings from here on out. We've had department supervisors, I'm sure similar to other schools, using the training and PowerPoints on our website at NSLDHH. And so we've emphasized that some departments are doing that and should continue doing that.
Well, Monda, so you're using your school, you mean to train others through Zooming, not at, so it's school staff, it's internal? That's so nice that you have that option.
Yes, it is internal. Yeah, and just to add to that, even myself, I've had to provide some technology training because some of our staff are not as tech savvy. And so how to do videos and editing. And so on Fridays, for any staff that needs some tech support, I've been providing tech training and how to do Google, how to use calendars, how to do invites. And I've really been enjoying that. So just adding some of that technical expertise so that they can take advantage of that and learn how to do that on their own to contact the kids. And so that's been one of our developed trainings.
Tim?
Sure. So I may have misunderstood. I thought training, are we talking about PD? Is that what y'all are meaning?
Yeah, same thing.
Okay. So again, before I retired, I was able to get, people to come and do a presentation live. During professional development days, we would bring in guest speakers and guest trainers. Now that we're virtual, everything has been more honed in on the academic side of things. And so it's been a struggle to kind of organize and coordinate that. With everything going on, I thought, why don't we ourselves provide Zoom trainings on different topics? We can get presentations that we can then use during those Zoom trainings that really apply to the responsibilities that student life staff have. The counselors maybe could do a training on campus, and that's an in-live, in-person training, and that's great. But maybe even hearing from different schools and seeing what y'all have been doing, so connecting with each other to get ideas and do trainings with each other. So now I think this is really a perfect time to capitalize on that. Maybe
agree.
soon we can get something developed. Deb is a great presenter, so maybe even using Deb to have a Zoom meeting and share some topics and ideas with my team, and then having someone else's team connect with.
Tim, I know every school at Student Life has their different specializations and skills, and we really just need to be doing some skill sharing. I definitely think we lack in that area, and that would be a good area of focus. How soon is the question, but yes, that's something to prioritize.
Right, and who to coordinate all of that is going to be a question.
I know at NSLDHH, we do have one person who's responsible on resources, but doing the actual development of resources is something for us to prioritize. I think that's great feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, I was thinking one area that I think we need to really expand on and continue to grow with is student developing, just positive identities, positive attitudes, and how to interact with students in order to do that. Because I think there's such a variety of our student population, as well as our staff population being very diverse. And so how to work with the different personalities, the different perspectives, and how to really develop that rapport that way is a good topic.
Great, thank you. Ethan?
Yeah, so the first professional development I think that's important is training on Zoom. There have been so many staff members that have felt like their head is below the water and have just been drowning on how to really use the Zoom platform and how to capitalize on it to the best of its ability and make everything more efficient for future PD trainings that may happen on Zoom. Hey, Ethan, that is true because I did something that was our first training with our staff, was doing Zoom training, doing screenshots, explaining and circling where certain items and clickable items are.
Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I could forward that email, sure.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, and then later I decided to do a video training related to that. So the one prior was just, a document with
So
screenshots.
both.
So I could forward that to you, or I could put it up on the NSL BHH
Thank you.
website.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you. Any more related training topics or PD? Oh, Matt, yes.
Sure, if you don't mind. I think it just kind of depends on the group, the staff or the supervisors, managers, whoever's in an administrative role, to do some training on just supervising and how to kind of get that morale bolstered for our staff. That's another area that could use some focus.
Okay. Well, Manda, you want to go into the next question?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of respond to Matt. It's interesting that you brought that up because, this week it's Appreciation Week for many people, interpreters included. And so what we did for our staff, residential staff for appreciation, was we did a lot of videos recognizing and profiling. We sent them out to our staff to highlight, how much we appreciate them.
Oh, you have the next question.
Oh, okay. Did we want to switch? I think you did too. Okay. All right, that's fine. So next question is, are there any plans?
Just saying hi, love you.
Okay. So are there any plans in motion for when schools are coming back in session? Whether that be August, July, what will that look like? Are you going to have students stay on campus over the weekends and not go home? What are those plans looking like right now? Mel?
As of right now, we have no plans that we know of. However, the school has asked us for some ideas to brainstorm on how to make campus safe, how to ensure students and staff are safe. So they've been asking for some ideas. What would social distancing look like? Would it be a single occupant per dorm room? Ideas like that. So we can look and see what we need to do across campus to ensure safety if we are to open school. And so that has just started, that idea brainstorming session. And so the team is coming up with some different suggestions that will continue. And then this summer, and the administrative team can look at the dormitories and what to do, because some of our numbers in the dorm, we have more than the ability to have a single occupant per room, and it just wouldn't be possible to do that. So we're looking at what our options are and what kind of issues we need to address in order to do things like that. So that is what's just come to light as of recently.
Yeah, we're in the same boat, Mel. Ethan?
In Fremont, we are planning to move forward as normal. We're expecting for them to come. I doubt it's going to happen, but that's neither here nor there. We're continuing to make plans to schedule everything. And at the administrative level, they can have a plan ready to go, have staff training in the fall. All of that's to be expected. Now, I know the California governor has also talked about maybe schools opening in July, which again, I doubt, because so many issues would come up with that. No decision's been made yet about that. However, if it were delayed start, it seems that California wants to wait a few more weeks on that decision, but it seems that they are looking at public schools and having their plan, maybe having Group A, Group B, and so it's possible that Group A would go to school for this amount of time, then Group B. And so we'd have to figure out how it works for the dormitory, shared rooms, shared suite, restrooms, that sort of thing. But the plan for now is to proceed as normal. I know in the fall, everyone's very excited. There's also concerns about staff vacancy. Is there going to be interviews, items like that? That is an area of concern for us to fill those vacant positions. And so we're hoping that we can go ahead and move forward with applicants, with moving on job positions. That is a big question mark for us. And then in terms of student residential, we are concerned about families, their worries about COVID, not wanting to send their students back to the dorm or cottages. They want them to go to school, but maybe not in the dormitory. So we have to be prepared for that. We may see a decrease in numbers due to that. Same thing for me, Edward's saying.
Thanks, Ethan. Ed? Oh, okay. So Ed had similar comments
Yeah,
to what Ethan
same
said.
as
All right.
Ethan.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and go to Marcos.
Again, I know we're in such an odd situation, and we do have some folks that come from the very far north part of the state in Idaho. And so some of them are being moved to other areas. There are concerns about where some of the outbreaks are. And so I think we will be the last school to open, not the first. And so, you know, with residential students, great, but those who are going to be flying in from more remote areas of the state, yes. And so there will be that consideration. If that doesn't work out, then plan B may be further discussion about, we know there's going to be a second wave, let's be honest, but talking about how to continue with virtual learning moving forward, whether it be a few weeks or longer than that, considering that. And so we're going to have to really ask ourselves those hard questions. Does it make sense to pay staff if we're going to still be doing virtual learning and what have you? And so I know our school is really struggling with paraprofessionals. So we would like all of our teachers to have their own paraprofessional. And so it's possible that dorm staff may need to fill some of those shoes or what have you. And so that way we can kind of spread out where people are. And so staff are learning more about the education system and what to do, what that looks like on the other side, doing some cross training and seeing what that means for students.
Also laying off any staff that may not be excellent signers or users of ASL.
Thank you. So we want to have a plan A and plan B. We need to be considerate of those who are flying in and what have you.
Well, thanks for your comments, Marcos. I hope it works out for you. Those are some good ideas going into play. Bethany.
Okay. Again, I'm from Tennessee, and so we're actually looking at 3 different phases at this point. So starting one phase, going from there, then phase 2, phase 3. So we're looking at the possibility of all coming back in August, which for me, I truly doubt that's going to happen. We're looking at the possibility of maybe half coming back and the school being hybrid to where half come to school, half stay home, and then flip-flop. It would depend on their location and their age as well. And it may depend on their LEA also, because they may be able to provide some services too. We have some students who are coming from far out areas, some areas that are having outbreaks and what have you, and so they may be required to stay. And so we may be considering those who are local day students, but if our local area is closed, then we may not have any day students, and some coming, some not. And so we're having to prepare for all those possibilities. It could be it's all distance learning until this subsides, and be looking at this as a hot topic. Who knows what August is going to look like, but we want to have more than one plan in place.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you for sharing, Bethany. Roddy?
Really 2 items of note. One is we can't really plan some of those fine details so much as on hold, because we don't want to necessarily expend all our time on that and then not be able to work. So we want to have kind of broad strokes, looking at what it would take for the school to open, and perhaps again limiting 1 per dorm room. And so we have 48 that would be all single occupancy, and then we do have a dorm that's for family housing. So it's possible that we would have to vacate that and make it available, and that would mean, you know, close to 60. And so my campus is a little bit of a smaller school. I know larger schools have a little bit more of a challenge to consider, such as if the school district closes, then the students may not be able to be transported, things like that. That is a challenge with transportation. If we need to consider busing and how will students be social distanced on a bus for transportation, are they going to be limited in the number of students who are on that. And so it's possible that we would lessen some of that daily transport. There are some who could stay at the cottage or what have you, and we may have to say, sorry, that our transportation is only for those who live within a certain radius. And so that's one consideration we're looking at. Secondly, if there is no school, then it's possible that most, if not all of our staff would be deployed to work into the school day setting to provide some better instructional support with small groups and what have you. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Roddy. Okay, Becky, go for it.
Hi, I'm at VSDB, and very similar to what else has been mentioned, you know, if this, then that, having a few different cases. I know yesterday our local charter bus company, they have actually not been doing well financially. They haven't been able to earn much revenue because they're used to summer tours and what have you. So they really haven't been able to earn. So there's some other charter companies that are struggling as well. And so that's one thing that we've learned. I know on the East Coast, we have roughly 25 from that area that use charter buses. And so looking at how to keep them distance, it would be complex trying to sort out those details.
Yeah, it helps us kind of think about our charter bus company as well. I probably should check in with them. So I'm just sharing about Texas School for the Deaf real quick. We recently established some groups of staff, and we're thinking about possibly staggering our students coming back in, whether that be elementary, middle school, high school. Again, we have a large number of students in the dorm, so having one student per room is just not feasible for us. So trying to figure out social distancing, the use of masks, having kids wear masks all day and all evening, that would be incredibly draining. And so at home, they're able to just sit back and relax without having to wear a mask. And so we are trying to come up with approaches and the best solutions for everything going on. And we don't want necessarily staff to burn themselves out if we keep kids over the weekend and only going home on certain weekends. And so how would that look for TSD? And again, we're sort of similar to California in terms of there's a possibility of starting school earlier than August, possibly in July. Again, that's just right now an if situation. So we are planning on what it's going to look like when we're back.
So as we said earlier, more questions than answers, right? Ethan?
You know, there's always a focus on one student per room, which is great, but what do you do during social time? What do you do in the cafeteria? What do you do at the infirmary? And so that discussion of one per room is, you know, not feasible. We have 4 students that share a restroom or a bathroom. And how do we then handle that in the cafeteria for breakfast? And so there's a lot of other locations on campus that have to be thought through and how we approach it. And if this pandemic continues and there may not be, you know, a vaccine for a while, so it's going to be an issue for all schools trying to accept students coming back in. You know, I think, again, they could be asymptomatic. They could be bringing corona from home, or it could be they contract it at school and bring it back to their families. So just a lot of layers.
Lots of work to do, you're right.
Deb?
I know MSSD, we've been thinking about if we do open, we will ask that students stay in the dorm and not be going home on the weekends. So they would kind of be quarantined at home, and they would be allowed to go home every 6 weeks. However, when they return after the 6 weeks, they would have to be undergo a wellness check to ensure they're healthy before returning. Again, more questions than answers, but something for us to figure out. Okay, I just want to see if there were any other questions on chat that came up. Most are talking about graduation. Oh, yes, Matt.
Yeah, so this is for Deb. You know, I'm sure you've already thought about this. Your situation's a little bit different than most of us because there's a lot of flying involved for your students, and airports now are limiting flights and those on flights.
Yeah, airports are very strict about the way people are seated on the planes.
Right, which definitely impacts students flying in from certain areas. You know, they may not be able to fly at the same time or get on a flight.
Tim?
Yeah, sorry, I do have two things I want to share here. It may be that students, are having their fevers checked, doing that wellness check, get on a bus, go back to school, and there are about 50 kids for us that are in the Denver area or Denver, Denver area. Um, and so there are 50 kids there. And so if they're riding a bus coming back to school from with kids from other regions in the state, the southeast or the southwest, and I'm from Colorado. So did they have their wellness check? Did they do a fever test? And then you have those that are day students and their parents may be going to work or they may be out and about. And so did they have their wellness check? And with Denver, there's a lot of back and forth on what to do with all of this. And there's some of the panic and paranoia of Corona needs to dissipate before we even consider the fall semester.
Ethan.
I think the problem we're currently facing is not necessarily coronas being a symptom of fever, it's that there's asymptomatic individuals. And that's still one of the instances where it can spread. And so it could be that staff or students have contracted the virus and yet are asymptomatic and then bring it into the environment where it spreads to other individuals, could die.
It's scary. Okay, just taking a glance at the chat box, make sure there's no questions we overlooked there. There's some wondering about keeping positions or not, and we know states vary across the board. It really depends upon each state and how they're operated. Okay, I think that we've actually covered all of the big issues. Well, Monda, did I miss anything? Unless any like burning questions maybe? Okay, any burning questions that you want to ask? Now's your opportunity while everyone's here.
Yeah, I do have a question. Just wondering in terms of staff one-on-one with students. I know in dorm residential life, just the needs. What are y'all doing for this? I missed that question. Do you mind saying that
He's
again?
just wanting to know for dorm staff, what are they doing with student one-on-ones, like doing life skills, that kind of thing? So those Zoom meetings, I know MSSD, we're required to record them for safety purposes. So if there's any accusation or anything like that. So we are requiring recording of the Zoom meetings that are occurring. We aren't really focusing on life skills. That's really school. We're trying to do more, bring levity to the situation, encouraging the students to redirect their focus from COVID-19 to activities and things. And so with some of those private meetings needing to really get some emotional supports and what have you, those are also in place.
So yeah, okay.
Roddy?
Yeah, so two quick things here. First, related to just the levity and just having those fun, lighthearted activities, reducing screen time sometimes. We do have PE for all of our students, and some of our staff are getting involved in that. It's starting to grow a little bit, but it seems like high school lacks interest in all of that. They have their texting, their chatting going on. And so parents are starting to complain about screen time. They would prefer their students go outside in the backyard rather than jumping up and down in a house. So I was just wondering if maybe we could throw out some ideas that do not include screen time necessarily. We could share that on our website or share different ideas. Also, I think it was Texas and someone else, I think California, talked about possibility of starting school earlier. I'm very curious as to why early is a possibility. I'm just wondering what's going on with that. So I think in terms of academics, they're wanting to have sort of extended school year because summer was closed. They're wanting to, I guess, provide compensatory services or remediate some of the regression. And so it's still in discussion phase. The decision hasn't been made. We're still in the what if. In terms of California starting early or whether it's going to be extended school year, I don't know.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Roddy.
Well, yeah, so in terms of IEP accommodations, are those staying the same? Are you tweaking those? You know, I mean, we have 140, 150 students that we're just having short meetings for. I'm not really sure what happened. We are screen sharing.
I'm not sure who's trying to share a file. Did someone accidentally click on that? Sorry.
Okay. So we're doing quick IEP meetings to change some of the goals or change some of the accommodations that are provided during this virtual time. So I'm just curious as to if that's mandated by your state to do that. I know that's not student life, you know, related, but that could be another meeting.
Okay, Matt.
Yeah, so I had a question related to your school starting early. Speaking of the Texas School for the Deaf or the entire state of Texas? I believe that's general. Well, actually, let me just say, I think it varies. It was an earlier start time. It's not necessarily for each school in the state or for specific TSD. So here in our area, they're not going to be making any decision until July 1st. So if that happens, they make a decision July 1st to start early on July 15th. That means we are nose to the grindstone here trying to get ready for that.
There's no commitment to that, no guarantees. It's merely talk to have people plan.
But is it dialogue at the state level or is it at TSD only?
Yes, at TEA at the state level. It's a discussion, not just TSD.
Okay,
and also, you know, as an aside, I doubt it will happen, but you know, we're trying to do some priming to get ready for that. It's a possibility that we won't open in August or possibly not until a later date. I did also want to respond to Roddy. At MSSD, we are challenged because we do have some funding. And so those students are going walking, biking, and we're able to send some things to them for them to get out and get some exercise. Another challenge that we're facing is trying to get them away from the screen, whether that be cooking or outdoors or something like that. Some also need personal hygiene items. So using that as an opportunity whenever they win those challenges, they can get some items from Amazon. There are some pros and cons to that. We're still learning and making tweaks as we go along. Okay, so I want to ask about how do you feel that as directors of student life, maybe doing a meeting every 2 weeks moving forward? Because I know we're going to continue to have a lot of changes. So what would it be worth maybe getting together every 2 weeks? I could send out a Google form to survey everyone to read through, do some comparison across schools and what they're doing.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me say it again. Yes. But keep in mind, I do suggest that it really does depend on the number of schools within that group and the school sizes,
Yes.
because the needs are going to be
small.
very different based on the school. And so we really want to maximize our time in that discussion.
So maybe we should have two separate groups, one that is for smaller schools and one for larger schools.
And, you know, just to clarify, also
based on dorm
the
size.
dorm size, based on dorm size. Thank you, Lee. I think it's going to depend on, you know, do you have students going home on the weekends, or are they going to be staying? The day students and dorm students, is there a chance or a risk on campus? So also very curious about that topic. Would love a discussion on that.
Great. Okay, any more burning questions? Oh, David.
All right. Wow. So I have to say this was great dialogue, great discussion and information sharing, and that is what CEASD is for, is to share all of this information that'll benefit our students in schools. These were some great ideas. I love the idea about the Google form, having them fill things out to where states can compete with other states or whatever it may be. making sure that we're including information on what students are doing and best practices. And as you said, there are so many more questions and answers at this time, but we are doing our best to proceed the best we can. So I think the meeting every 2 weeks is a great idea. The one thing that we have to think about is resources. CEASD providing those resources, or individual schools needing to offer those. Maybe MSSD at this time, if they have an account, could provide some resources. American School for the Deaf, we thank them every time for the Zoom platform. And so we just want to make sure that we're not forcing other schools to spend exorbitant amounts of money in order to have these discussions. So I do think the discussions are very valid and important to us. Again, my name is David Keaghlan. If you don't know me, I'm the president of CEASD and the superintendent of the Indiana School for the Deaf. We want to thank you for your time. Also, as you know, the CEASD conference happens every year for principals and administrators. We try to tweak some of our topics that we offer during that time. We do have a student life track within the CEASD conference, and it doesn't have to be just principals and administrators. If there's an athletic discussion that's going to occur, we can have athletic directors come. We have finance discussions and so forth. We want to make sure it's as effective and as beneficial as possible. Again, so many thanks for all of your sharing and comments. We have just gained such information today. Any final comments? I want to say, Deb and Wamanda, you did a great job. Thank you so much to our interpreters.
I really want to thank CEASD for this opportunity to collaborate. Thank you, Texas, for sponsoring the interpreters, and thank you for ASD to support this Zoom meeting.
All right, good to see you all. Thank you so much. Stay safe, be hygienic, and keep social distancing.
Bye, everybody.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, everybody pop up, give your waves, say goodbye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Good to see you. Bye, everyone.
All right, this is a great team.